One story is about the woman who showed me this math problem, and Deborah Ball and her colleague Magdalene Lampert. They were math teachers at an elementary school in Michigan who took an unconventional approach to not only their own teaching, but the teaching of other teachers. They were both teachers and teacher educators. But they found that in order to make visible all of the invisible work that teachers do, they needed something more than just having people watch them teach. So they decided to videotape their classes for an entire year. And not only that, so every single minute of every year was videotaped. And not only did they do that, they also kept records of all of their students' work. They kept journals for each student. And they also kept their own journals. And they had researchers interview their students. And these accounts are a lot of what I draw on in the book. They take you somewhere where most of us who aren't teachers have not been, and many of us who are teachers have not been, which is the mind of other teachers at work. What were they doing and thinking in the moment, and what were their students doing and thinking each moment as they helped them learn? Another story I tell is the story of teacher education. So if teaching is a skill, then it would make sense that it's important to prepare teachers in this skill and specialized knowledge that they need before they teach. So a lot of people have been asking me, why is it that teachers say in such large numbers that they leave teacher education feeling unprepared for this work? Right? It would make sense that if it's such a skill, they would need to go to school to learn how to do it. Well, I learned the story of how teacher education came to turn away from a focus on teaching, from a tradition that we had early on in this country of normal schools where teaching was the heart and of what the business was to do. It was to help people learn to teach, and that's what the professors at normal schools focused on, to universities where most professors disdain teaching. In fact, the father of educational psychology, I learned, which is sort of the heart of education research, once he was presented with a problem of practice by a principal. And the principal said, I have this problem in my school. Professor Thorndike, tell me, what should I do about it? Well, Professor Thorndike only studied psychology. He didn't actually study education. He thought actually that schooling was boring. So when the principal presented him with this problem, he said, what would I do? I'd resign. So that's another story I tell, is how did we come to turn away, and what would it take to turn back to this earlier tradition that actually would value teaching and the study of it. And one way another story I tell to offer some hope is of my travels to Japan. I came to go to Japan because I learned that Japan had done something that the U.S. has not managed to do. It took good ideas that a small group of teachers were beginning to create, and it scaled them. It brought them to the whole country. So that when I went to Japanese elementary schools with an interpreter, every single classroom I went to, I was, as an adult, stimulated. Like, I was learning, and these were third grade and first grade classrooms, but I was learning. And that was whether the person was extroverted or introverted, whether they seemed to have a natural inclination to connect with students or not. They had the conditions to help all the teachers be great. And I describe how they did that and what it might look like for us to do that.